Come see us on tour in Los Angeles, Honolulu, Dallas, Texas, Baltimore, Atlantic City, Cohoes, New York, and Providence, Rhode Island. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets, and only there. According to the president of Slovakia, Zelensky's caught in a bribery scheme up to 500 euros. 500 million euros. And what is the bribery scheme? The bribery scheme? The bribery scheme is that Zelensky wanted into NATO. So he was going to bribe this guy with 500 million euros. That's what he said. So let's listen to it. You can turn it down a little. He said, I was surprised by such a reaction from Zelensky. I was surprised by Zelensky's reaction. That in the principle, any option that Ukraine would transit gas via any of the routes was ruled out. Because there is still an opinion that any route, if it passes through Ukraine will carry Russian gas. Again, that's what this whole thing is about. There's several things. One was it was about weakening Russia so they could overthrow Assad in Syria and give part of that country to Israel, which is what they're doing.
Well, Turkey was in on it too.
And Turkey was in on it. It's all about they wanted to put a gas pipeline from Iran through Syria. They didn't want that. They don't want Iran to be able to put a pipeline and give energy to Europe. They wanted that pipeline to come from Qatar and Saudi Arabia. Do you see what's happening? Okay. So that's what he's talking about. And that's why they blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. The Nord Stream pipeline carried cheap energy from Russia to Germany. And the United States wanted to sell that gas. And so we are. And now Germany's economy is tanking because they're paying such high price for energy.
Well, you see what he said? If it passes through Ukraine, it will carry Russian gas. That's how corrupt Ukraine is.
Yes.
They don't want it to go through Ukraine because they're still going to buy Russian gas.
That's right. He absolutely ruled that out. Zelensky, he has stepped in with proposals that seem absurd to me. For example, he will agree to transit gas only if we don't pay for it before the end of the war. So he's willing to let Russian gas come through Ukraine to go to Europe only if Europe promises not to pay for it.
How would that what?
Right, this is what he's saying.
That's a cokehead. That's cokehead plans.
Yeah.
That's what that is.
What kind of fool would give us free gas? As we were nearing the end of the meeting, Zelensky returned to the topic of gas and asked me if I would vote for Ukraine to join NATO. If he would give me 500 million euros of Russian assets. So with Slovakia, of course, I immediately replied that I would never. You just know my opinion on Ukraine's NATO membership, which is no. And it is strange that he asked me such a question.
Yeah.
Because he knows very well that inviting Ukraine into NATO is absolutely not acceptable.
Yeah.
But we are helping Ukraine. I would expect Ukraine to help us too. Tell me how to explain this to the Slovak public. I'll be thinking about it all Christmas long. So Zelensky sent you, people will tell me, and you will continue to supply him with electricity and send humanitarian aid. I cannot completely rule out that in this situation, we will have to think about retaliatory measures from Slovakia, which will be real. Why would I not do that? If he has decided that there will be no transit of energy from Russia to Europe, so that, God forbid, someone does not get money for their gas, even though the Russians, are still selling the gas somewhere else, then we have to ask why our countries should have one-way traffic. Why it should only go from us to them? Why can't there be some kind of solidarity towards us? He's saying, why should we give you aid? Why should we give you arms? Why should we give you stuff? But you won't help us. We
need
that energy.
Because Ukraine is their Israel now.
Yes. So there you go. It's all about, just so you know, it's all about oil and gas. It's all about Israel. That's what's happening in Ukraine. And it's all about Balkanizing Ukraine, meaning chopping it up into pieces and selling it to BlackRock. They've already sold half their farmland in Ukraine to BlackRock and State Street and Vanguard. They thought they were going to be able to do the same thing to Russia. They thought they were going to be able to put such a hurt on Russia economically that people would overthrow Putin, and then Vanguard, BlackRock, and State Street and the economic hitmen from the West would come in and carve up Russia and sell it off. That's what they thought. It didn't work. Russia got even stronger now than they were before, and they started combining with China, which is the last thing that, if you're in the West, you would want.
They don't even like each other, and we pushed them together. And here it is. Here's the big bribery. Zelensky caught in a 500 million euro NATO bribery scheme. And that's from Robert Fico, the Prime Minister of Slovakia. Yeah.
And why did Zelensky think paying off Slovakia would help in the first place? I mean, I don't think all this hinges on Slovakia. I'm just saying, I think Kamala Harris paying 6 times to recreate the set for Call Her Daddy podcast for 6 times the cost of the original set, that was probably a better use than the money paying off Slovakia. That's all I'm saying.
Their vote is, what are they, the George Clooney of NATO that makes the final call?
And this is the same guy who got shot, right? Isn't this the same guy who got shot?
The guy that I said somebody wants to get shot because he was going to investigate Pfizer.
Because he announced he was going to investigate Pfizer and the COVID.
Ukraine something.
Yeah, and then he immediately got shot
by a 72-year-old man with no history of violence. And I was like, oh my God.
Wow. I miss the old sweet Zelensky days when he just wore a rubber suit and high heels and danced for money.
You know, the guy, say what you will about him, he plays piano with his dick.
So you're telling me Zelensky, the leader of the human trafficking organ trade and money laundering hub of the entire world, is offering a bribe?
And not to the right people?
And not to the right people.
Do you think that Slovakia, I still don't get what he's, and they're giving him electricity and what else? And they have to not have gas. Well, like, he knows the reason why is because America and England and Europe, you know, the more prominent NATO countries want it that way.
That's right.
That's why he's probably baffled at Zelensky coming to him like he's going to do something. A guy.
Next thing you're going to tell me is Zelensky's scratchy voice is from all the cocaine he's doing to keep himself running ahead of his own conscience.
Yeah.
So if you don't know that all the Russian oil and gas would come through Ukraine to go to Europe, well, that's why they built the Nord Stream pipeline that bypassed Ukraine and it went directly to Germany. And that's why the United States blew up the Nord Stream pipeline.
Yeah.
And now Europe and Germany are suffering. Their economy are tanking because they now have to pay double, triple, and quadruple the price of energy.
Yeah.
Since we did that. And they still, for some reason, still go along with the United States and the Western economic hitmen. And I'm guessing it's because they're all being bribed and paid off. And the ones that aren't, or blackmailed.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Their governments their coalitions are all collapsing, all of them.
Yes.
All of the WEF.
The WEF.
Tomorrow. Yeah.
They are collapsing.
So that's why. But they can't let go because you don't want them tapes coming out.
Even the UK's prime minister is screaming about open border policy was done intentionally. The guy who was cheering it on 4 years ago. Yeah. So their governments are collapsing. And I have a story I'm not going to get to today about how the whole economic system is a scam in Europe right now, and that it's been opaque, and that they haven't. Yeah,
I feel like I know this story already, and I haven't even heard it yet.
For 10 years. Come see us on tour in Los Angeles, Honolulu, Dallas, Texas, Baltimore, Atlantic City, Cohoes, New York, and Providence, Rhode Island. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets, and only there.